You guys, it's finally here. I'm so excited. This is my first high-end digital camera purchase ever. First camera purchase in like over 10 years, and my first exchangeable lens camera. So really a newbie here. The title is literally asking you people who actually know what you're talking about, did I make the right decision? Because I've been going back and forth over which camera to get ever since Sony released the a7S III. And honestly, it's been a really tough decision to me. I only just decided and changed my mind about getting this one within the past week, I would say. So don't know much about photography, don't know much about filming. I've definitely learned some stuff in doing research about cameras. So please watch this video and let me know if you think I made the right decision. I don't think that I would necessarily return this camera, but maybe I'll end up selling it or getting a different camera in the next couple months. I'll test this one out and see how it goes. This is definitely the most advanced camera that I've ever had, and I'm so excited about it. I'm not sure that really any of the Sony Alpha line cameras are necessarily entry level. From my research, it seems like this is probably the most entry level one. I'm definitely still even a little bit nervous about this camera and hoping that I won't be too overwhelmed with all the settings and features, because I'm going from, you know, my iPhone, which is filming this right now, to something that's way more advanced. So I'm kind of nervous. You know, I've heard stories of people who buy these super high-end cameras, but then they never really use them because nothing looks good, because they don't really know what they're doing. I'm hoping I won't be one of those people, and it also felt a little bit safer getting this one because it is so much cheaper than the a7S III and the a7R IV. Those were kind of the three that I was choosing between, basically. But just so you can see how much of an upgrade that this camera really is for me, one of my first cameras that I got that wasn't a disposable camera was this Kodak Cameo Motor EX, and you flip it up and you have your flash here. Pretty simple, put your film in there. Very old school. I remember getting this for, gosh, I want to say maybe like my 5th birthday. I got it at a Red Lobster. That was one of our go-to restaurants for birthdays and special occasions for a long time. So yeah, this is my very first camera. Then I think it was the year that maybe the first Xbox came out, or the year after, because I got this Canon PowerShot S200 for Christmas and my brother got the Xbox. So that was my first like digital camera. I think it was 2 megapixels and the LCD on it was 1.5 inches or something like that. But I remember getting that as my first digital camera. And then my most recent digital camera I actually got for Christmas as well, the Sony CyberShot SDXC HX5V. I think I got that back in like 2010, and that was definitely a bit more of an upgrade. It was a 3-inch color LCD, and it was 10.2 megapixels, and it had a 10 times zoom. So I went from 2 times zoom in the Canon to a 10 times zoom in the Sony. Fast forward from 2010 to now, basically just been using my iPhone camera for everything, and now I'm finally here. I've stepped up my game. I'm ready to become an amazing photographer or cinematographer. Not really sure which way it'll go, which is part of my struggle with deciding which camera to get. So that's my history with my cameras. Back in the beginning of September, I decided to order the Sony a7S III. Literally, I was so hyped to get that camera. I didn't even look really at anything else. It was the camera every YouTuber and anybody who was into recording video was like super excited about. So I was like, this is an awesome first camera. I can't wait to get it. It is now just about a week until Thanksgiving. So since the beginning of September till now, I have still not received the Sony a7S III. It's like back ordered everywhere. I'm a really impatient person, so obviously over those 2.5 months, I kept looking to see if it became like available somewhere else or if I could get it somewhere else faster. And while I was looking, I then discovered the Sony a7R IV, which 61 megapixels. Holy wow. That was really impressive, and kind of started looking at that camera and comparing it to the Sony a7S III, but I couldn't commit to it. I must have compared those cameras and considered getting the a7R IV at least 10 times, but I couldn't commit because, I mean, it didn't have a flip out screen, which I feel like if you're doing all of this filming and stuff yourself is really important to have, or really useful to have, I should say. And since it didn't have a flip out screen, that would mean I would need to buy a monitor, and that would have easily put on another $5,000 to $1,000, and I was like, I don't want to do that. Plus Plus there was like a bunch of other things, like it's not as good in low light, and because of Sony megapixels, those files would have been so huge when you're recording the 4K footage, and it didn't feel like as, you know, like the Sony a7S III, it just felt like it had all the technology in it. And even though the a7R IV is only, you know, about a little over a year old, I didn't feel as excited about it. I kind of felt like I was getting it for the megapixels and because I could get it sooner. So I could never really commit to getting that camera. Then Sony announced the a7C, and I started comparing those two as well. It definitely seemed like a really solid camera, much more affordable. I could get it faster. It had the flip screen. It had more megapixels, but it was only 24 instead of 61, so I felt like it would be a lot more manageable when you're filming in 4K. I really liked the way that the silver looked, and I'm slightly concerned because this box is showing a black one on here. I ordered a silver one because I thought it looked really cool, so I'm hoping that that's what's actually in here. And again, it was way cheaper. It felt like a safer gamble to get this camera. So despite it not having as good of in-body stabilization as the a7S III, which would have been nice to have, even though it's the same technology, it's in a smaller body, so I hear that it's not as good as the a7S III. And I also really was disappointed in the storage in this camera. I ordered this at the same time that I got the camera, and this was really back ordered as well. Like, I literally just got this yesterday, so now I have to return it. But this CF Express Type A card, I think the Sony a7S III might be the first camera equipped with it, and it is really impressive. I also got this SD card with this camera because I didn't really have anything. I think the biggest card I had was 128 gigabytes, and this is 300 megabytes per second read and 250 megabytes per second write. And then this one is 800 megabytes per second read, 700 megabytes per second write. That is insane, the difference. But this is also insanely expensive. I can't believe that for 160 gigabytes, it was as much, if not more, than my 2 terabyte solid state drive, which I thought that was expensive, but then to pay as much as this cost for only 160 gigabytes. So unfortunately, this only has one slot for this type of card, and I think this is like the fastest and the largest card that will fit in this camera right now. So I might have to get another one of these, and then I have to return this one, which makes me sad. So the Sony a7S III has 2 of the CF Express Type A slots, and it has 2 of these. So like, that's just an insane amount of storage for a 12 megapixel camera. I feel like I'm kind of surprised that they couldn't even give this camera with twice as many megapixels, at least 2 slots. I guess it has to do with keeping it compact, but it would have been nice to have the image redundancy. But I'm not that heavy of a filmer or a photographer. I don't think that I'll be filming or taking photos that much that I'll ever exceed this in one shoot, so it's probably good enough for me. But if you're like a professional, that would probably be really annoying. So there's like a bunch of other things. Like, this isn't as good as low light. I think the a7S III is probably the best of the Alpha line. At least the 3 that I was comparing, it was the best. And then there are like so many other things that I just, not knowing cameras, I didn't really understand. Like, the list of recording formats for the a7S III is like insane. I don't know what literally any of them do. And then the a7R IV was a little bit shorter, and then this was the shortest. I mean, I don't really know what any of the difference between any of those. So to me, I was like, it's not really a deal breaker, but maybe once I learn more, I might be like, shoot, I wish I had this recording format. Who knows? We'll see. And then I think the last thing is I was really excited about the Sony a7S III. I'm sure there are people who will disagree, but so many people were excited about the new menu system in it because apparently the old one was not as good, maybe confusing. I'm not really even sure what the issue was, but so this still has the old menu system. So it would have been nice to get the newer software in the camera, but I've not experienced either of them. So anything that I got was just gonna be such a huge upgrade for my iPhone that I'm like, it's fine. But anyways, yeah, so literally just this week I decided to get this camera, and it just came today. So before I do any more talking, let's open this baby up. I'm so excited. I think the thing that I'm just most excited about though is not having to use my iPhone to record anymore. I have to like have a mirror behind my phone set up so that way I can know if it stops recording or make sure that I'm still in frame. So having that screen is going to be amazing. And I can't tell you how many times I've run out of storage on my phone or got interrupted and didn't realize it wasn't recording anymore. I'm so excited. I wasn't gonna get the lens kit, but then I saw that you couldn't get the lens by itself until like February of next year. So I was like, it's a nice compact lens, and it was much cheaper than some of the other ones that I saw that I wanted. I thought it was a good entry-level one to get. Oh my gosh. I don't smell anything. It feels expensive. It feels like a camera. And the screen, oh, I can't wait to use that. Oh, I heard about that too. The rattling, do you hear that? Oh gosh, that's gonna drive me crazy. This came out after the A7S III. I'm not sure why they didn't fix that. I'm gonna have to spend so much time learning how to use you, but I can't wait. And then we have the lens. Oh, it's so tiny and cute. I was looking at the 16 to 35 millimeter lens. That was much bigger than this. What else? So we have a nice little camera strap that says what the camera is. We got the battery, got a brick, USB type A, and then so an A to C cable. A lot of people don't like having the HDMI mini. I don't know that I'll plan on doing too many HDMI hookups, so we'll see if that's a problem or not. So how do you charge the battery? Do they give you I have to buy my own charger? I guess you can charge it through the camera, which I guess is what I'm gonna have to do for a little while. I'm so glad I got the silver though. It is very, very pretty. I talked you through the process of how I ended up with this camera, but here's where I still just don't know if I really made the right decision. And my main hang up, which I feel like probably a lot of other beginner photography, cinematography people also deal with, is like, do I want to do more filming or do I want to do more photography? So this whole YouTube thing has been super fun, but like, am I really ever gonna be, you know, Sarah Dici or iJustine as a tech YouTuber? Probably not. Like, they must be crazy rich. And I usually just buy a new iPhone and Apple Watch every year. This has been a huge tech year for me. I got the 16-inch MacBook Pro, the iPad Pro, this camera, and then like a bunch of recording, like so many microphones, recorders, studio lights. Like, I don't normally buy stuff like this, but I get very into hobbies. So when I start them, I kind of go all in. That's what I was unsure about, is should I get a camera that's really made for filming, which was the A7S III, or more of a photography camera, which obviously would be the A7R4. But I thought that this was kind of a middle ground because it was a more manageable size megapixel. Again, that's where I might be wrong. Like, this felt like more of a photography camera than the A7S III. So I know even getting the A7S III would have been a huge step up in the quality of photographs, plus getting, you know, good quality glass for your camera. I don't know enough to know if I really would have been happy with it for photography. I'm going on vacation in December, which is part of my impatience for trying to get a camera soon. I really wanted to take one with me to play with and, you know, learn how to start using and see how quickly I could pick it up. And then I think for my sister's graduation, I think her and I are going to be doing a road trip cross country. Obviously doing that, like, I really will want to document it, but I'm not sure if I'm going to want to document it with photos or video. And I don't know how good at capturing like the Grand Canyon 12 megapixels would be in a photo versus 24 megapixels. And plus, like, I did hear, so like I know that megapixel, while it might not matter in like a photo, as soon as you start cropping in, that's where having more megapixels will help you out. And this kind of just felt like a safer bet if this whole YouTube thing doesn't pan out, you know. I'm running out of things that I can afford and buy, so I'm not really sure how many more videos I'll be able to come up with outside of buying technology. At least I have a camera that's really good for a photography hobby. I know one thing that is kind of disappointing is the viewfinder. It's not the highest quality, and then it doesn't have a hood on it, which I've never gotten into photography, so I don't know like if it'll bother me, but I heard that that was some complaints of actual photographers. It still does kind of bother me that the A7S III has the same megapixels as an iPhone. Again, I know that the image quality is probably greatly different and that the A7S III is probably way better, but it was still just like, you really couldn't put like, I don't know, like a couple more megapixels into this camera. Maybe there's a reason, but I couldn't wrap my head around it. For once, I decided to play it safe and be a little bit cheaper and get the safer, cheaper option, in my opinion. I'm thinking that this will just be a really good camera to learn on. It still is Sony, so I'm thinking that going from this to another Sony camera would be relatively seamless. And then I can always decide later that like, hey, filming's not for me, or it is for me, and then upgrade to something else. Like, I'm curious to see what the next A7R will be. It's only a year old, so I don't know if they would be upgrading upgrading it, but with all this new technology like the CF Express Type A card, who knows? But so yeah, if I decide that I'm more into photography, I probably would head towards that camera more in the future. Or if I really like the filming, the A7S III, like that camera is still like just, it gives me chills. And then watching, you know, like iJustine's video where her and her sister were kind of out there testing out the camera before it was actually released. I think I've watched it like 3 times. It's just so beautiful, and I would love to be able to make film like that. I'm nowhere close to it. Pointing and shooting like this is as far as I have gotten so far. Again, this will be just a little dip my toe into that pool, and we'll see how it goes. Anyways, that was a lot of talking. Hopefully it was slightly informative, entertaining, and helpful to you guys, hopefully. I'm sure that there are other people who are in the same boat as me, kind of getting into, maybe not necessarily even into YouTube, but just photography, filming, because you know, we're all supposedly have more time on our hands. I'm sure other people are trying to get into things, and I feel like cinematography could possibly be like a little bit more fun than just photography. But if you're in the same boat as me and you're trying to get your first high-end camera and you're just upgrading from your, you know, camera phone, the way I feel, and I'm guessing, is you'd be so happy with any of the choices that I mentioned. I don't see how you couldn't be. But I would really love to hear from you guys. If you think that I made a good decision, I mean, maybe somebody out there is like, no, the A7S III would take amazing portraits and landscapes, like you would have had nothing to worry about. I would love to hear that. Or maybe you'll say that this is a crap photography camera and I need to return it. Because even though the A7S III is better in like literally so many ways, this has twice as many megapixels. So how could it not be a better photography camera? Let me know down in the comments how I'm wrong, because I'm sure that there's more to it than just that. And also, I would love to know if you guys have any resources for learning photography or filming. I was looking at Shaw Academy and LinkedIn Learning. I don't know if there's other photography type of courses out there. If you guys have any recommendations, leave those in the description as well. Like if there's a YouTuber that you really, really like, well, I would love to hear them, and I'm sure other people would be interested in checking them out if they're also like me getting into this stuff for the first time. Anyways, enough talking. I had a lot of fun making this video, but it was probably just because I was opening up this camera and I can't wait to use it now. But thank you guys so much for sticking around and watching. Again, leave lots of comments below. I'd love to know your opinions on the cameras and everything that I said, and any resources that you might recommend. But I think that's it, so I'll see you guys in the next video.